Hi, my name is Alejandro Pérez, and this is the AI Coffee Podcast. Every week we will have one episode regarding one disruptive aspect of technologies for the time to drink a cup of coffee. Today we are going to talk about chatbots and AI psychologists. Do you know that 80% of people have interacted already with a chatbot at some point? Or do you know that by 2027, chatbots will become the primary customer service channel for a quarter of organizations? So this data is showing that chatbots are more and more important in our days. So a chatbot is an algorithm, an application, a website, a service that provides answers to questions that we as humans can ask. So it could be an Alexa, for example, or even a chatbot from an administration that apply for any kind of paper documentation. So chatbots are almost everywhere. And they are becoming really popular in the last decade. But I don't know if you know, but chatbots are also really old. So the first chatbot is called Eliza. It's spelled Eliza. And I will add to the notes of the episode the Wikipedia page, so you could see more details than the ones I will explain in the episode. This chatbot was born in 1964, so it might be even older than most of you, or at least more or less your age. So it's really an old one, even before internet was popular, or even before computers were popular, because computers were starting to appear in the 90s, so it's even before that. So Eliza was created by the MIT AI lab, and it is considered the first chatbot. But of course, it's nothing compared to the chatbots that we all have now, because it was really a non-intelligent chatbot at all. Therefore, the developer behind that decided to build a logical reasoning, but of course, the logic behind that, it's not compared to the logic behind the chatbots that we have now. But still, it is considered the first one because it was a program somehow that can provide answers to questions. So it's a first chatbot. And I recommend you to see the pictures because there is also an expression I saw about the Eliza phenomenon. So apparently this first chatbot could impact the society so much at the epoch so that many of the films appearing later were related to this Eliza. And also many of the science fiction first movies at this time recreated somehow Eliza or something similar. So it was really the first one and also the main one, to be honest, because after this one, the society understood that there is a possibility to communicate with machines not only through zeros and ones, but also through a human language. But there is not the main one at this moment, of course. There are more and more, and they are almost everywhere. As I told you at the beginning of the episode, almost every organization or public administration or even every company has a chatbot in a part of the organization. And that's something that it's important to know, that the first thing that many of the companies or the public administration do when they want to digitalize, the digitalization, this word that is really popular at this moment, but when they start the digitalization process, one of the first things that they actually do is they create a chatbot. Because it's really a simple way to automatize part of the process. Because it cannot replace human totally, but it can be really helpful to communicate with humans, because this chatbot can be 24/7 working, and for really repetitive and redundant things, it could be really helpful. So imagine, for example, if you want to ask for a really simple paper to a public administration, it could be really, really helpful, a chatbot. So you can go to a website and ask directly this bot for this specific paper. And you can do it a Sunday evening if you want, and you don't need to wait until next week that a real person, answers you. So first look at your question, then do whatever they need to do to generate this paper, and then answers you with a paper. So for this kind of repetitive tasks, I guess that it's a really clever solution. But of course, it cannot replace human, because there are many complex things that usually appear in the companies, in customer service. So it cannot replace completely a human. And of course, I know that and I suffer from all of these bots that we all have when we call, for example, our electricity company or our telephone company, that says every time you need to press 1 if this or this. And of course, this is not the solution. I know. Imagine that we call directly this electricity company and we were able directly to say something like, I would like to ask for the bill of November because I had a problem. And saying like that in like natural human language. So imagine if this bot, instead of saying, please press 1 for this or 2 or 3, and after maybe 10 or 15 minutes, finally you are addressed to a real human, because finally this bot is not working well, But instead of this, imagine if the bot directly says the solution, or answers your question, or gives you what you are looking for. So it could be really helpful. So when I'm talking about chatbots, I am not talking about this recording thing. I'm talking about a bot that could potentially replace human for these repetitive tasks or these simple tasks. So you don't need to wait until the service is open, or even it may be quicker than maybe waiting a queue of 5 or 10 people to ask for a specific thing. So it could be really helpful, and that's why many of public administrations are now thinking how they could implement a chatbot in their organizations to give more value to citizens. That's a really important thing. And also some companies are working in that direction too. And you will see that in our decade, you will see it because more and more chatbots are important and popular. And I want to finish this episode with one example that I like it a lot, and it's connected to the name of the episode. So I said at the beginning of the episode that I will talk about chatbots and AI psychologists. So one application that it's for me really interesting is these bots that are appearing more and more related to mental health, as they could really help for this part of the population that is not able to afford a psychologist, or even like a complement of human psychologist. And of course, I am not saying, and I don't want to say at all, that they could replace human psychologists, because I don't think so. But still, they are a really good tool that could help society to have a better mental health. So, for example, I was using Dana. Sorry, my pronunciation is not the best, as it is supposed to be an Spanish brand. So I was using it for a while last weeks because I wanted to try it for the podcast. So I don't know if you know it, and I think it's only in Spanish for the moment, but of course there are like many like that. And again, I want to clarify that I do not have any kind of agreement with this company. It is an application that at this moment has more than 5 million downloads in Google Play. Quite a popular application that is really helpful because it is a chatbot where you can go and ask a quick thing 24/7 and can provide you a solution that, of course, it is not the same as going to therapy, of course, but it's quicker. It's 24/7, it is free, or at least they have a freemium version. So they have a free version somehow. And also it's helpful for me because it can be a way to track your mood or your feelings. So then if you are also going to a therapy, you can maybe have a better understanding about what do you feel or what was your mood one day, and then trying to connect the reasons why you have this mood. So for me, it's really helpful. Of course, it cannot replace the human therapy, and I guess that's the optimal point. Technology and AI can be really helpful, but not a way to replace this. But anyway, anything that can help in such an important issue as mental health, I think it's great. They are good news. And I know that there are more applications, more websites that have chats or any kind of logic behind that can be similar to a chatbot. So a person without any kind of skills and any kind of digital skills is able to talk with, and it is more or less like talking to a human, and it's free and it's 24/7. So it is helpful somehow. And I know also that there are others for other domains. I invite you to send me more, and maybe I will talk about them in another episode. And also, I invite you to think, to conclude this episode, if you talk often to chatbots. Do you think you talk often? Because there are also some surveys that I have read recently that says that many of us usually talk to chatbots without even noticing. Because now they are so intelligent as humans. Sometimes for some, let's say, simple tasks, they are so intelligent as humans. So maybe you have talked a couple of times this week to a chatbot and you thought that was a human. So let me know if you think that you talk often to chatbots, and what do you think about that. And also, imagine that in a couple of years you have a really intelligent chatbot to talk to your electricity company or phone company or whatever. Would you talk directly to the chatbot, or maybe would you prefer still talking to a human? Even if we have these kind of chatbots that are really, really intelligent and answers you as a human, not the ones I told you about pressing 0 or 1 or this doesn't. We all agree maybe that this is a waste of time, but I am not talking about that. I'm talking about the really good ones, like the ones I mentioned. So would you prefer talking to the chatbot or the human? And finally, what if talking to the human implies an extra fee? Would you still prefer a human, or would you prefer talking to a free robot, let's say? So this, I think it's a good debate. So please let me know what do you think, what are your opinions about that, and let's discuss about this in another episode. Thanks for being here one more week. If you liked it, please subscribe to the podcast and to the newsletter in alejandroperezperez.com. Please share both with your friends and relatives, and don't forget to give me 5 stars in Apple Podcast and Spotify. See you next week. Bye bye.